Welcome to Uncanny X-Minutes, where we bring you the comics behind the movies. I'm producer James.
And I'm Sasha.
And we're here watching X-Men Origins Wolverine, minutes 10 through 20.
Do you want to know what happens in these minutes, James?
Yes, I do.
Team X is en route to a mission. They're looking for adamantium and will slaughter a village to get it.
Yikes.
Wolverine quits Team X because he's a good guy and moves to the Canadian countryside with Silver Fox, who I don't think you actually get her name, but that is who this is.
With a lady.
With a lady.
You mean in the movie you don't get her name?
Yeah.
I think they call her Kayla.
Oh, sure.
They go by her first name. But
not
Silver Fox is...
Yeah.
Her code name in the comic books, and her last, like, Silver Fox is her code name. It's like her superhero name, supervillain name, whatever you want to call her. Silver Fox is her last name. It's all one. They smushed it together as if it's a last name.
Well, it actually might be, because isn't she supposed to be indigenous?
I don't know, because I haven't done the research on her yet.
She is indigenous, because she's in Indigenous Voices.
She is. Not because of that. In my research, there is one where she's in stereotypical, Native American garb.
Yeah. So no idea if that is a common name or not. We will let our indigenous listeners tell us. So, but in either case,
well, she isn't who I was talking about today.
Kayla. Yeah. We're not talking about her today. We're going to have a whole episode devoted to her.
She's got time. Today, I wanted to talk more about Team X.
Yeah. This was very interesting.
Yeah.
Because Team X, I don't know how you felt about your research, but Marvel's kind of hiding them a little.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
Usually when I pick a topic, it's like, all right, to all of the websites I like to go to, and I compile a list of, like, read all these comics. This one was tough. I
think they are intentionally doing this, and I don't quite understand why, because the origins, the stuff with Wolverine, there's been like some retconning with Silver Fox, and like I said, we'll get into that when we get there, but for the most part, the events as they are happening theoretically have still happened in the Marvel continuity. So it is kind of strange that you have this entire team that is like the Wolverine origin team that they're kind of hiding under the rug a little bit. And I think I do think it's just because they work for the CIA. That this is like before it was S.H.I.E.L.D.
So that's the thing. So it is a military black ops team that was created between the Weapon Plus program and the CIA.
Very specifically the CIA.
It is in the timeline of Marvel, pre-Weapon X, pre-adamantium being laced to the skeleton, just like in this movie.
Right.
So the movie's got that right.
They do.
Like, the timeline is correct.
Totally working.
The team, there's weird stuff with the team. Let's start with I'm going to table that because there's a lot around that. I want to start with the roster of the team.
Okay.
So the general, like, agreed upon roster that most people go with is Wolverine and Sabretooth, Maverick, which in this movie is Agent Zero, which is one of his code names, which I didn't know.
Wildcat, I think, is another one.
Yeah, there's one of the missions where they all went by animal names.
Yeah.
There is Silver Fox. There is John Wraith, who sometimes goes by Kestrel.
Yes.
There's like a couple other questionable ones, like Mastodon.
Yes.
But I didn't read a ton about him.
Mastodon counts.
Do you think Mastodon counts?
He's
not there as often.
Because he dies. You didn't get there. I did.
I must not have got there. Or no, I think I did get there, but because he just died is so inconsequential.
Here's the thing.
Because I think that's the mission where they all go by animal names.
Yeah. I think that's the other thing too, is that like this, so much of Marvel is like, they died, but did they really die? And it's like,
right?
Did you run into them again? Kind of thing.
Did we want to bring them back?
Yeah.
So if you look at the team from the movie, it's not bad.
No, it's not.
Usually with this kind of stuff, they take the name and then they walk away. It's like they don't do their research. They're like, who do we want? That's good. Thank you. The only two that aren't really in it normally are Blob and Bolt.
Yeah.
Which, not bad. Like, I mean, Blob he didn't start as part of a team. He's kind of his own thing. I don't mind him being part of Team X.
No, I don't either. I think it works. Like, I mean, Deadpool is also on this team in the movie, and that also works.
And Deadpool, yes, of course.
That works for me too, because these are just like characters like Deadpool. Fred Dukes, also known as the Blob, is generally villainous, kind of.
Yeah.
Though Deadpool has more recently been rewritten a little bit more. But like generally, historically, like they are both like mostly villainous, but sometimes like a good guy or at least gray. And so having them be on the team where like the CIA is like, okay, these are people that will do bad things if we pay them enough.
Deadpool's definitely in a mercenary territory in most things he's written in.
And the Blob is not that far off from being part of something like that.
I can see Blob being paid to do stuff.
So I think that totally works.
And in this scene, we do see that Blob is not fat, but he is still the immovable object.
Yeah, because he puts his hand inside of the tank. Can we? This is not supposed to be about the Blob, but now I want to talk about it because
I was
so
he will have a highlight. But
annoyed about that. I didn't like it.
You didn't like it?
I didn't like it.
I liked it. Yeah.
I didn't. Now that you say it, I understand the context. But when I watched it, I was like, "How is this?" I didn't understand, and I know the Blob powers. I'm very well versed in Blob.
Yeah. But
I just did not put together how that was working. Like, just because functionally...
Because it's cartoon logic.
Right. But, like, usually with the cartoon logic of the Blob, there's some sort of, like, physicality that goes with it.
He's absorbing motion.
And then he's moving and his body is moving. And in this, it was, like, hand in tank and then, like, it kind of made a noise and blew up, kind of, not really even. Sure. It wasn't even that big of an explosion. It was like a little poof. And I'm like, what is happening here? But yeah, now that you say that, of course, immovable, that's what they're trying to get across. I'm going to say that was not obvious enough because I did not figure it out.
Sure. Well, it's not obvious if you're like, well, is that supposed to be Blob? Like, because I think they just call him Dukes or Fred Dukes.
They call him Fred.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Because they don't call him Blob till later in the movie.
Right.
So, like, me and you were like, what's going on?
Well, I knew it was Blob. When they said Fred, I'm like, that's got to be the Blob. Yeah. But, like, at the other same time, I was like...
But you imagine, because the way they write the comics, that his fat is part of the power.
That's the thing.
Which, when he gets depowered...
Yeah.
He still had the skin without the fat.
Right. I remember that was I can't wait to talk about that. I can't wait till we get to him anyway. Because that's a great... I read that on my own, just like... enjoying comics, and it was so good.
I don't know enough about Bolt to have an opinion.
Same.
Which we will get to him.
The same. I don't know.
It felt like the team was well crafted.
Yes.
Like, if you're going to have a team to go in and do like Black Ops stuff, it's not a bad team to have.
You've got a tank, the Blob. You've got a teleporter. You've got like a
electrical manipulator.
Yeah.
And just like 3-4 high-level assassins.
Yeah.
But like different types though.
Yeah. Because Wolverine is not the same. Like Wolverine and Sabretooth are probably closer.
Yeah.
But like Deadpool is not the same kind of assassin.
No. And then Agent Zero, they call him, is your gunman.
Right.
But Wolverine and Sabretooth are dropping in the middle of a like close combat quarters.
They're barbarians.
Close quarter combats. There it is.
Where Duke is a little bit more of like a paladin tank. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they are healing, but they're fighting.
Yeah. They rage for sure. For sure. No doubt. We've gone so long without pulling D&D into this podcast as well. And then you went and did it. It's funny because in the other podcast, I feel like we pull a lot of X-Men to explain what's going on there.
Yeah.
Never really pulled the D&D in. So thank you.
You're welcome. I live to serve.
So this isn't a Deadpool highlight, but Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool was good from the start.
The first 20 minutes right now is great. He's a great Deadpool.
It is interesting because if you come back from the future, he is the same character.
Yes, definitely.
But it's how everyone else reacts to him. So like the rest of the team is like, please, for the love of everything holy, can you shut your mouth?
I love it.
Which they kind of do in later movies, but not to the extent of this one where everyone's like, my word, man, what are you doing?
I love it though, because that is kind of how he is in the comics, where people like constantly tell him to shut up. Like, please, God, just shut up.
I think the humor is still about the same though. Yes. That's the weird thing.
It's like slightly different approach, but same character and it's still Ryan Reynolds. Like it's still funny and it's great and it still reads like Wade Wilson, but it's a more serious movie. I mean,
yes.
Not that Deadpool isn't serious because it can be.
Yeah, but it's a comedy.
But yeah,
this is not so much a comedy.
No, and so this makes more sense for the tone of the movie that it's in,
Correct.
which I think should be a good sign. Not that I think that Marvel's going to be looking at X-Men Origins Wolverine for any guiding light towards their characters, but if I'm going to pull out a little like diamond in the rough here, this is a very good way to put Deadpool in a serious movie. It works for the first 20 minutes. Be caveat star.
Hey, you say diamond in the rough. The first 20 minutes are pretty solid.
They are. I agree.
We haven't gotten to a point where we're like, woof. Like little decisions, no problem. Full 10 minutes. I'm enjoying this. Deadpool, the only difference is I don't think he was this level. I think he was just straight normal. Once again, I haven't done the research. I think he was more of a regular mercenary soldier boy, not like running around with swords.
In this era?
Yeah. Well, like before he became like Deadpool.
Before he became officially
Before
Deadpool.
he had any powers. I don't think he has healing in this movie.
I guess that's the question. I don't know.
I don't think he is. I think him and Agent Zero are both not. I don't know if they're actually supposed to be mutants.
They're not mutants yet. Oh, well, I'm not going to. Let's not.
Spoilers.
I'm not going to even talk about that.
I don't think either one is supposed to have powers. I think they're just supposed to be skilled.
Okay.
But I'm not. But one could argue they have that their mutant abilities is just enhanced fighting. You know.
I guess to me it's interesting because everybody else has powers.
Right.
Yeah.
So it would make sense they probably do have powers.
Yeah.
But
and in the comics, Team X are all mutants.
Absolutely.
So another a note in the win column for Deadpool about being a mutant.
Yeah. We'll get to that. When we get to his movie, we'll go into that whole thing. But as of right now, I guess it could be argued he is a mutant, most likely. Like, you're right. It's probably supposed to be a team of mutants.
I think it is.
Obviously, we're going to talk about all of those people when they all get their own highlights, like, throughout the movie. Team X, I just want to go a little bit into the reason why it's weird to talk about Team X. They specifically take their team and brainwash them, brain wipe them a lot, I would say, and then implant false memories.
A lot.
There is an animated episode. It's like Weapon X Lies in Videotape or something like that, where it is about this. And I had a false memory of reading the comic that basically that episode is. I watched the whole entire show before X-Men 97 came out, and now I've been reading so much old stuff that I like crossed it, and I was like, wait, was that? I thought it was in Krakoa era.
I've honestly, like, sometimes that happens. There's just so much X-Men content. Like, did I read that? Did I not read that? Was it an illusion?
It makes me not want to watch the cartoons, all the cartoons yet, because I'm so deep into this.
Yeah.
That if I do, they're going to cross.
I have not been watching. I mean, I did watch 97 because I had to. But I have not.
You're going to.
Yeah, there's just no escape of that. But, like, I have intentionally not gone back and watched any more of that stuff because it's really hard to keep it all straight up here.
Yep.
If we're, like, researching something, yeah, it's really easy to have my sources. But if I'm like pulling things from my brain,
right, exactly. Well, I couldn't find it when I was looking up the research, so I was like, oh wait, wasn't there a thing? And then I tried looking for it, and that was all that popped up was the animated series. It is. There's two false memories that I find very interesting. One is Sabretooth Wolverine's dad? Did you run into that at all?
No, I've heard this. I just don't believe
it. That's what it's from, though.
Yeah.
There are memories where Sabretooth is the dad and Wolverine's the son, and there's they have memories of them interacting, but it also is dubious within it.
I'm going to say no. And
No, they're not.
Yeah,
I mean, but that is, I think, before Origin.
Oh, sure. I get what you're saying.
So Marvel was also like, is Sabretooth Wolverine's dad?
Yes. Okay.
But then at the same time, Wolverine kind of thinks Sabretooth might be his dad to an extent. It's weird.
It is weird. I'm glad they moved away from that. I don't think that's as fun.
No, it's not fun.
No, it's not.
Give me his time traveling, 1700s frontier brother.
Yeah, actually, yeah, 100%. I love Dog. Anyway.
The other big one is that Sabretooth killed Silver Fox.
Yes.
Which you find out in one of the stories. Silver Fox just comes back and we're like, oh yeah, no, that was fake.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was like a setup. And then all of this too is kind of, there's also the Romulus. I don't want to talk about Romulus, but
I didn't even dig into Romulus. He kept popping up in the research and I was like, I can't quite even find, is he behind it or is he not? It was even questionable in the research.
So it depends. I think technically yes, because I don't know 100% if it's been officially retconned yet.
Sure.
However, I do have an answer to this.
Thank you.
Would you like to hear about it?
Yeah, I would love to hear about it.
So there is a comic that is a standalone that came out in 2009. So put that in the space of time. So there's been a lot since then. But it is called Wolverine: Weapon X Files. Not just Weapon X, because that is an entirely different series.
Okay.
But Wolverine: Weapon X Files is effectively a comic book that is the files of Weapon X.
Okay. Yeah,
and
yeah.
So in that,
I've seen that.
You get literal profiles, and also it has the ratings, the power ratings like they had on the cards.
Awesome.
At the bottom of the pages and stuff. And in that printing, as of 2009, the explanation about Wolverine and all the false memories and everything that goes bad with the Weapon X program and stuff that lead up, because even like a lot of his memories and stuff happens even before technically Weapon X, is Romulus. So, as of 2009, that it is a really interesting snapshot of what Wolverine's backstory, because Wolverine's in there. He's got a couple pages.
Sure.
What Wolverine's full backstory is as of that moment.
Interesting.
Now, I know there was a lot of changes that happened right after it as the Romulus stuff was being resolved.
Yeah.
But I think it's pretty interesting, and like I don't think all of that got retconned. Like it didn't like get retconned, like it didn't happen. I think there was some other stuff that they did with it, and we'll talk about Romulus at some point.
I would imagine we talk about Romulus at some point.
But just to give you like,
I mean, that just adds to the like confusion, and I think Marvel does that on purpose. I think Team X is so Black Ops, that it's like, what did they even do? What didn't they do? And then he's discovering, because it also gives the opportunity for him to discover missions throughout his storylines, where it's like, oh no, this is coming back to me. I didn't even know this was a thing.
Yeah, because I mean, and then you have, it's just such another layer to like manipulate Wolverine. So to just give a really brief thing about Romulus, Romulus not only manipulates his memories, but he also manipulates his behavior. So like if you read that thing, it's like, oh, he was acting like this and he was mean to people and he was torturing people because he was under the influence of Romulus. Like that is the line. Like that's like the whole explanation.
Okay.
And so it's like kind of vague, and like, so you have that. So he can be under the influence of Romulus, which is like almost weirdly like more than just memory erasing. It's like almost like a thrall in some ways, at least how they explain it as of 2009. And then there's also all this context about like his healing factor erasing his memory, and then also the project erasing his memory. There's just so many different ways that he's losing memory.
That's and it's funny. I think we will go more into detail when he actually loses his memory in this movie.
Right.
But there's like 3 layers just in this one layer, and this is before he even gets his adamantium.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, because even if I think you mentioned it when we were talking about the origin comic, that he even like loses a little bit of his memory due to shock or something. Like Rose has to take care of him for a while because he kind of doesn't know what's going on.
And that's the healing factor one.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like his healing factor helps him deal with trauma by erasing.
So that's why Wolverine is so vague and so confusing. Anyway, let's keep talking about Team X because we could talk about Wolverine.
Yeah, no doubt.
I was digging through the files to see what
like that comic.
No, not just that comic.
It's just the comic that says files.
This is actually an adjectiveless X-Men. Just X-Men. 5, 6, 7, and 8.
I would just love for someone to mock up those issues and it just says just X-Men.
Just X-Men. It's 1992, so if that makes it easier for people to find.
Yeah. If you don't know, X-Men was X-Men, then turned into Uncanny X-Men.
Yes,
and
for
then
a very long time.
And then in the 90s, they decided to bring X-Men back. So they had Uncanny X-Men and just X-Men. Mm-hmm. But it's not the word just, it's X-Men.
Just X-Men.
See, you can't say it without saying just.
This is why I like the phrase that was coined in other places, other
Adjectiveless.
podcasts. Adjectiveless X-Men is a good descriptor. So I found that in these stories, which are in X-Men, not in the Wolverine standalones, but like are kind of tied to that stuff, they have a operation with Team X, and it's like these stories are being told in like flashbacks as well,
always
as the present time,
which I think adds to the confusion because you're like, did this even happen? I don't know.
Yeah. So in this, there is a CIA operation. So this is still the CIA as of 92, and they are well, this is the flashback. So let me be clear. The flashback is about how the Wolverine was trying to get a thing called the carbonadium synthesizer. I'm sure you're familiar with this.
Carbonadium is one of those words that I've seen a bunch and was like, I don't ever want to say that out loud. There's something about it that doesn't seem right.
It's an Omega Red thing.
I got a whole bunch of Omega Red things. I will jump in when you're done.
And basically they're sent to retrieve this, and also there's like this undercover agent, her name is Janice, and they're gonna like go in, grab the carbonadium synthesizer, steal it from Omega Red because I think he needs it to live or something like that. And
I'll go
I don't
into
care.
It. Yeah.
And
you'll care in a minute.
And then they need to leave. The problem is, as they're trying to escape, it's going poorly. They need to jump from the 10th floor out of a window. So the three people who are there is there's only 3 people on this mission. So that's Wolverine, Maverick, and Creed. So basically Sabretooth. In order to do that, Janice, who is the undercover agent, she's just a person. She's a regular person. And like they're like, let's jump. And she's like, no, I cannot do that. And that's when Creed turns to her and says, you're a liability, and kills her.
Yikes.
This is when Logan tries to go save her, whatever. But then Maverick, Creed, and Logan, they kind of grab Logan and they jump out the window and they all land, and they're like, they all look at each other and they're like, oh, guess I'm not the only mutant. I think Creed says this, like, who's working for the government. That's when they all realize that they were all fine after that jump, and like that's why they're all mutants. Because I think Maverick, he like absorbs the landing. At least that's how it's explained.
Yeah, one of his abilities is kinetic energy conversion and kinetic absorption and redistribution.
Exactly. Well, whereas the other two, the healing factor.
Sure.
So they go back to report that they have they think that they have the carbonadium synthesizer, and Creed tries to, sorry, I should call him Sabretooth so people know who I'm talking about. Sabretooth tries to tell their boss at the CIA, like, hey, like, we tried, but, you know, we couldn't save her. You guys just didn't give us enough information to do this thing. And Logan's like, absolutely not. You panicked because you wanted to get out of there and you just killed her. And like, he basically sells him out. There's a fight. They get separated. There's like security. And that's when like Logan is like in disgust, like, I'm done with this place. And he goes out, which is basically what happens in the movie. It's a different, obviously it's a totally different setup, but generally the vibes are the same.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. I think, because once again, this is not a Sabretooth episode, but
so hard.
It's so hard. But if you look at the Sabretooth in this movie, it is closer to the comic book Sabretooth than in the first movie. Because we both did, about how he was just a henchman in the first movie, which is fine, whatever. It's, we didn't know what we were doing back then. You jump to this one, that is Sabretooth.
100%.
A lot closer to what he might be a little less feral, but he'll slice some throats.
And you know what? That also fluctuates in the comics too. So
I guess that's true. Sometimes he's so even keel and then flips on a dime, and then there's sometimes he's just a monster.
Yeah. So I guess that's true. Anything,
you got that right. So yeah, this is the most accurate Sabretooth.
It's extremely accurate.
I think why me and you, when we were talking about it last episode, you're like, this movie isn't that bad.
I'm still like,
I'm
good
still
with
on
this.
the train.
I'll let you guys know when we get off the train.
I think we
get
off the train when Deadpool shows up with no mouth.
Yeah, that's
the
definitely
end
a stop
of the
for
movie.
Me.
I think the end of the movie ruined a lot of things. There's some other weak points probably in the middle of it, but right now, like, everything is what it should be.
Yeah, they've changed some stuff, but generally the point
adaptation
of these stories are there, and I don't have a huge problem with it. It makes sense. Everything that's happening here, the characters have literally done in the comic books.
Right.
So it's like,
as
okay,
you have found.
Right, it tracks. And I think I'm like, okay, cool, this works. I think that, like, some things to note here, as of this point in time, there are memories about, like, Silver Fox and Team X and whatever in the comics that neither Sabretooth nor Wolverine have. And that's like kind of being addressed in this run right here. But just like, so everybody's aware, like that is
nobody
something
knows.
that nobody knows.
This isn't just a Wolverine's been manipulated. The whole team has been.
Yeah. And then the issues kind of go on, and like the whole thing is that this is when he starts getting his memories back, but we can talk about that in the Wolverine episodes. But like, it's because they're trying to find out where that carbonadium synthesizer went.
Right. It's funny. I had written down a bunch of notes about mostly Omega Red.
I love this.
Partly because I don't think we'll ever talk about Omega Red.
No.
There's no reason to.
Can I be honest?
Yeah.
I've spent a lot of time avoiding knowing anything about Omega Red.
Well, buckle up, because I've got some things for you. Essentially, he is the Soviets, like, they're trying to make a super soldier of some sort. So they don't have adamantium, and their attempt to make adamantium is carbonadium.
Okay.
Which is still a strong metal, but it's more flexible. Hence, they put one tentacle in each one of his arms.
Okay.
Made out of carbonadium.
Got it.
Carbonadium is poisoning him.
Oh, they kind of did that with Wolverine too.
Which that's the thing. I think we mentioned it before. They tried adamantium poisoning with Wolverine, and I think it sometimes is still there when he's older.
Yeah.
Or his healing factor has gone down, but not always.
It's iffy.
It's iffy. It depends who can remember it's a thing. Carbonadium poisoning is always there. That is like a core of Omega Red. He is vicious, and one of the things he always needs is the carbonadium synthesizer, which is supposed to help like reduce the poisoning in his body. And I think in the Krakoan era he has it.
Okay.
But they killed him and brought him back and like put it in him, but had extra Krakoan tech around it so they could track him, I think it was. Did you read?
I did not read these. Are these the ones with Sabretooth underneath Krakoa?
No. I think these are X-Force.
I have not read a lot of X-Force.
Ooh, these are later X-Force stories. So there's that. So I only bring up Omega Red because a lot of his stories in this era tend to be him attacking members of Team X, trying to find the carbonadium synthesizer.
That's definitely the story.
And that was that. So it was the funniest. You're like, so then Omega Red and the carbon. I was like, yes, the stuff.
I know. I'm so glad you focused on it, because I was like, I wrote it down. I was like, Omega Red, he needs it for something. I refuse to look up why.
It's that. It's basically the only thing is it'll keep him alive.
That makes sense, right? That poisoning, that tracks. Like, I mean, if you're gonna draw a parallel to Wolverine with like a different metal, like the poisoning, that's all stuff that's been there. Right. I see that. That makes sense.
I think the other thing about it too is he also has like he can absorb energy, and I think that holds back the poison too.
Oh, like life force.
Yeah.
I vaguely remember him stealing life force from people. Kind of. I don't know.
He's more of an He's not an X-Men villain. He's a Wolverine specific villain.
Yes,
that's why.
That is correct.
So like me and you have read some Wolverine, but not a ton.
No. Especially not solo stuff, which is where I feel like a lot of the Team X, Omega Red, that kind of stuff shows up.
Right. Because like he and Omega Red will show up, like he showed up in X-Men, but he shows up like as he feels like a Wolverine villain from the get-go.
Yeah, he like even in this run, there's first of all, I just want to explain that in these comics, there's a different plot going on with Mojo, like a totally different thing with a long shot and Dazzler, and there's like a whole different thing that's personally, frankly, more interesting.
I want that.
Like,
I want that story over there.
That's the story that I was like trying to like not focus on. I'm like, I'm reading about Wolverine.
It really comes down to like, I don't need one angry man trying to attack another angry man over a MacGuffin. I need the insane guy who wants television ratings.
Yeah, there's just something about that. And then like long shot and Dazzler, and she doesn't have her memories, and they're falling in love. Anyway,
that's what I want.
That's what I'm here for. But anyway, this is still kind of interesting with with the Omega Red stuff, in that like there are so many fake super soldiers, and it also draws a lot of like Wolverine is a really good jumping off point to bring people back into the rest of the Marvel universe, because the stuff that I'm talking about, Mojo and Longshot and Dazzler and all that, and the Siege Perilous, which is why Dazzler doesn't have her memories in this, that's not relevant to the Marvel universe at all.
No, that's an X-Men thing.
That is just X-Men. I'm like swimming only in X-Men waters. But if you go slightly with Wolverine, because he's pulled into so much other stuff, you get Super Soldier, you get Natasha, you get so much stuff.
They bump up with S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
Because they're another ops, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
It happens. The last thing I do want, there's a little minor thing, and I went into some research. So the reason they slaughtered a village was for a bit of meteor.
Right.
Which, later in the movie, they're like, adamantium is why it is. So here's the thing. So I went back to X-Men 2 to see what they said about it.
Okay.
And all they said in X-Men 2 was once you get it melted, you can't harden it again, essentially.
Okay. Yes.
Later in this movie, they do say it's a compound.
Okay.
Which is what I wasn't sure. Like that. So I think this is only supposed to be one part, because they never say the meteor is adamantium.
They don't.
They say, hey, do you remember that rock we got back in Lagos?
Yeah.
That's what this is. Like they kind of just
talk around
it. It's a compound. Once you melt it, yada yada yada. So we've talked at length about adamantium in a previous episode, but I don't think it's inaccurate in this movie. Yeah. I think it's just one of the components happens to be a meteor.
That it's mixed up with that together.
Right.
Yeah.
The thing in the Marvel, like in the 616 proper, they say it's resins. Is all they say. Like a combination of resins that yada yada yada. So like that whole it's like the super soldier serum. It's such a closely guarded secret that even Marvel doesn't know what it is.
Yeah, it's like one of those things where it can be vague, and there are compounds of adamantium, and there's like we talked about in the adamantium thing too, where it's like adamantium whatever. Beta, it could be a lot of things that I think you're right in that like they're not technically incorrect because they chose to be vague. Exactly. Which like I guess good for you. Like
it's same with Team X.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, kind of.
I think that just about wraps up our Team X discussion. As vague as they are.
Yeah, and know that if it's confusing and you're having a hard time looking for them, you can always reach out to us, but like it's intentional. Yeah. Like we mentioned earlier, Marvel does not have a really good, it's really hard to like, even like fan pages to be like, can I have a list of all of the books that Team X is in? It's actually not really possible.
It's tricky.
It's hard. You have to kind of already know who Team X is in order to pull that stuff out.
Well, because like John Wraith doesn't show up unless he's in a Team X book for the most part.
Yeah.
At least that I found. I mean, I'm sure he's in other things, but for the
For the most part.
For the most part, his appearances tend to be Team X appearances.
Silver Fox appearances, at least to the ones that are on Marvel Unlimited.
Yeah.
Basically are only for the Wolverine stuff and indigenous voices, and there's not really much else.
Well, we'll know when we do their highlights if we have to come back and be like, oh, maybe we don't do these highlights.
I think I still want to talk about them,
sure.
I think it's interesting that Wolverine's original team is forgotten not only in continuity, but by out of continuity as well.
Yeah. So this movie will help.
Yeah.
It's doing its part.
We're doing our part.
All right. I'm producer James.
And I'm Sasha.
And we'll see you for the next 10.